from the August 22nd meeting of the Acton-Agua Dulce Unified School District Board of Trustees. We will reconvene the meeting at 7:30 p.m. I've asked two of the finest parents in our district to lead us in the flag salute, please.
Right under your heart. Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
Well, thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Rios. I will read the civility statement because I need to. When conducting the district's business, we will strive to communicate clearly and concisely with respect for the time of others, listen objectively, carefully considering the opinions of others, understand the counterproductive effects of disruptive, demeaning, and intimidating behaviors, understand and respect district policies and procedures, and maintain a respect for the rich history of the district and the efforts of others who have served in the past. Moving on, report from closed session. There was no action taken in closed session. Number 6, public comments, recognition, and reports. When I call you, you will have 3 minutes. Step up to the microphone, watch the button. If you want to yell at anyone, yell at me, no one else. I like it. But let's start off with I have an ophthalmologist. Thank you. Mr. Leonardo Rios.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for the time that you guys have given us. I just want to make comments about our high school football team. And my son tried to play last year, and we saw a big difference on last year's the way the team is, the way the team is now. And it's a big change. I just want to say, the positive things about the team. I believe the coaching staff has a lot to do with it. We just came from I guess they have the lunchroom before the game. So this is the first year my son is playing. So the first thing, I don't know much about it. And so now I'm getting involved with this. And I saw the kids, they were really excited. And I hadn't seen that excitement in a long time. Last year we went to some of the activities that they had, but it wasn't like this. And I'm not trying to compare, other things, but it's just, the kids are just really pumped up. And, it has to do obviously with the coaching. I guess I believe the coaching group that they have, it's just amazing. All they have to talk is good things for the kids, everything that they said out there. I've seen it, I've gone to the practices in the afternoons, in the mornings. And man, it's just amazing how they take care of the kids and how they actually work with the kids individually. I see that they take their time. They go with each kid at different times, and they actually do care for them. So hopefully, and not hopefully, the way I see them been working, they were practicing 5 o'clock in the morning. I think we're going to have a great season this year. Hopefully you guys can make it. You guys can come by and see them. I'm just pumped up with it, to be honest with you guys. Just pumped up the way the whole thing is coming up. And I believe that's going to bring the whole town together again. I think it's going to be amazing. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rios.
Rios. It's Rivas. I'm sorry.
Could you continue with the writing lessons, please? Mrs. Rivas? Thank you. I can turn this off now. Listen, I'm fixing to tear into you, and it ain't gonna be pretty. Okay. If I throw this thing, will it stop working? Reset, there we go. Somebody handle this. Charge me with vandalism. What are we up to now? See, it works. 7, correspondence, proposals, and reports. Adarap, you're on.
So thank you for letting me talk again today. I have one sentence to say. Ada hopes you all had a great summer, and we look forward to a productive and inspiring year for all. Thank you. Woo.
Something tells me that's not all of it. Anyway, CS, it's just saving it for later. CSEA representative, nothing. Student representative of the board is the invisible person. Do you have anything for us? Hint, hint. Superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. Falsgraf. Tonight I'll be focusing on 2 goals of our plan, student achievement and effective instruction and leadership. I want to start off with a fantastic back to school night at Meadowlark. Day before school started, everybody was pumped up, excited, energized, reinvigorated. Fantastic turnout. The kickoff was at the MPR, which was standing room only. Couldn't get in, honest truth. It was a fantastic opportunity for new and returning parents to build that all-important home-to-school connections with our fantastic Meadowlark staff. So kudos to the staff. Job well done. Moving forward to goal 2, effective instruction and leadership. We had a wonderful welcome back breakfast that was held on August 13th, where we celebrate our staff get re-energized before the opening of schools, which was August 14th. This was the day before. So the theme for the breakfast was building brilliance. Topics included welcoming new team members to each and every one of our 3 fabulous school sites, updates and highlights from our departments, from business services to ed services, people and culture. We also talked about our district tiered supports, which includes both academic and social emotional. And we reviewed our CHIC survey, which stands for the California Healthy Kids Survey results, with the entire staff and team. And then we concluded with an all-staff team building activity, and those are the pictures that you see. So everybody was excited. It was a thrill to present to our wonderful staff. Opening of schools, again, August 14th was smooth, successful. Few photos from that day. Really felt the positivity walking through our campuses, each of our campuses, not only from our students, but from our staff that I was able to interact with that morning. So a huge thank you to school site administrators, school office staff, teachers, students, and our parents. Lastly, I'm thrilled to share that our enrollment numbers have increased. We have steadily increased our enrollment numbers for 3 consecutive years now. Enrollment numbers have increased by 37 students. We ended last year with 1,031. Enrollment numbers have increased, like I said, to 37. So our enrollment numbers as of now is at 1,068. So with the addition of 37 students, looking at our ADA by the state, that's close to $500,000 that would be injected overall into our general funds for the following year, which will be 25-26. So to echo Ada, good news all around. So that concludes my report. Thank you.
Great. Moving along, we are going to have a report from our Finance and Facilities Subcommittee. I will take the liberty of saying that if you haven't been here before and heard this, I have wanted this for the past numerous years because in organizations where you are going to build people who come into the board with site experience, parent-teacher group experience, that know the district's business, the conspiracy theory garbage from the parking lot, I have no use for it. So where I work, they have a program that is basically a group of people go around each year and take, it's kind of like a class, but you're familiarized with all aspects of the organization. You might run a crane in public works, you might look at the finance director, but all this stuff feeds people who end up being on subcommittees and who end up on commissions and ultimately who fill city council positions. So instead of coming to the board and kind of being like, I'm the new guy and my friends want you to do all this and make his life miserable, you come to a board with a personal experience and a professional experience from your world that will lend to this. And I have a little drawing here. It's called the Rivas model. Not really, but here's how I see operations. You've got a triangle. Our goal is to educate our children and send them out to be self-sufficient in this world. There are a couple aspects here. Facilities and finance is responsible for making sure that they have a clean a place to go to school that's safe, and finance, they have to fund what everybody else is doing. On the other side, you have policy and management. HR is kind of trapped in the middle here because they don't fit anywhere because sometimes they cross roles. But these two groups, policy and management and facilities and finance, if they're balanced, if you balance this triangle, sometimes the focus is going to be on one thing if you're building, if you're this or that. But when things start tipping one way, guess what happens to education? The focus goes out the window. And when it starts bobbing around too much, instead of just going this way, it starts getting turbulent and the focus gets away from education. So I was happy. You can expect that these other two subcommittees will roll out by the time I'm not president again in December. But now I am pleased to hear the report. This will be the first committee report I think we've heard from this district in decades, if not ever. It will be my pleasure to hear from Bill Mays and Lester Mascon.
All right. Well, we were offered the opportunity to serve on the facilities and finance subcommittee, which allowed us to kind of deep dive and create some focus around those areas. Yeah, if you could throw the presentation up on there, I'd appreciate it. So we started off by, once we received this task, we started off by deciding that we really wanted to take a deep dive into all of our facilities as a whole. You can skip the slide 4. We decided that we wanted to take a deep dive into all of our facilities as a whole, and we figured the best way to do that was to, grab Ernesto and Bill and I and Kai went, and we literally opened every door of every storage container, every classroom, every office, walked every property line, and looked at every single property from starting with, went to Meadowlark first, and then we went over to High Desert. We went to Vasquez. We came back to this campus, and we went over to the Agua Dulce campus because we really needed to get eyes on and understand where we had available space, where we did not have available space, and just get an idea of what our upkeep of the properties and kind of the condition of all of our properties were and all of our stuff. And Bill and I specifically were just absolutely floored with the quality of maintenance and upkeep at our different facilities. It was 100% top notch. There wasn't a speck of dirt anywhere, no cobwebs. Even the telephone and electrical closets were clean, which I've never seen in a building before. The IT closets look like they had just been installed yesterday. I mean, you could still follow every wire from patch panel down to the switches. I mean, it was really incredibly impressive what was there. But like I said, it really did give us an idea of where we had lots of available space, where we had no space whatsoever, and where there could be some better utilization. And that was our first go at taking a look at that. Once we finished that, we came back. Go on to the slide already. No, you're good. You can stay at the last one. And we kind of decided, you can go to slide 4 still. So we just figured out who was going to do what on the facilities finance subcommittee, and obviously Bill Mays, our board members, myself, Ernesto and Kai make up that subcommittee, which is great. Ernesto understands the maintenance side of it. Kai has a wonderful knowledge in finance, obviously, or else he wouldn't be here. And by the way, Kai, just being able to spend the day with you and then, hearing all the things you were talking about and bringing it up, it went from like 0 to 60 on exactly my confidence in you and your abilities, and just thrilled that you're absolutely here, because I don't think, I don't know if people understand how lucky we are to have someone of your caliber here. But once we figured out who was going to do what on the subcommittee, we moved on to kind of stating our purpose very clearly. So on slide 5, you can see our purpose, and I'll go ahead and read it to you. The Facilities and Finance Subcommittee works to support staff and the school board in making informed and strategic decisions for the school district, with a focus on financial health, facility readiness, and community involvement. And just, for the legal part of this, we created this subcommittee under AAD-USD Board Bylaw BB 9130A. So if anybody cares to reference that, they can kind of look and see what the rules that are governing this subcommittee will be and where they stem from. So with that in mind, we kind of laid out what our next few agenda items would be. On slide 6, you can see what our next future agenda items will be. And our next meeting is coming up before our next board meeting, where we're going to do a kind of a deep dive in some areas, but really do an overview of the budget, one that's meant to be digestible, and really with a focus on facilities and kind of our own financial health. Like, we really want to, make it easy to understand and dive into some of the areas, see where the money is, what's available. I know we talk a lot about our having such a surplus of funds here, but I think you'll be surprised to see where so much of it lies in restricted funds, which means it came from grant money, etc. And it's not quite the bucket that we think of, but it'll be important that we kind of detail that out, point out where it is, and see what's truly available for us to make improvements. That's the next step. After that, we really do need to do a deep look at what our current maintenance needs are. We do have keep the lights on activities. There's things that just simply have to be done between roofs, keeping up with code, etc. And we need to understand that stuff in great detail so that we know, once we budget and handle those things, where we end up, what's left afterwards. Assessing opportunities for space optimization, self-explanatory. Assessing current enrollment by grade and campus, so we understand where the current capacity lies, where the surplus deficiencies are, and have a budget and plan to meet future needs. I think that we can clearly look at where we have students in which grade, and then we can have an idea, if nothing changed on the front end, which we keep hearing every year, how we have improved enrollment, which is fantastic. But we really need to forecast just how those things are currently happening and are affecting us, and where we need additional classroom space, floor space. There's known activities that are happening in the world today. They're building a giant housing development over there. What is our plan to be able to accommodate and attract those students to our district? So that's sort of things that we hope to address in that. And then finally, if we can do all those things and we can define all that, then the next step will be to survey the staff and the community for capital projects and see what the community would like to see. So that's kind of a highlight of what our next 5 or 6 meetings will look like and the things that we're going to try to tackle through this subcommittee.
Just to piggyback off of Lester, my job in real life is a director of construction, and my job is to go in, detail look at stuff, and find things wrong. So that's what I intended to do when I came into this walkthrough on Friday. I was pleasantly surprised that there was nothing from paperwork to the facilities. I asked for fire extinguisher certifications, all fire department certifications, everything was in order, in envelopes, ready to go, which a lot of times doesn't happen. The IT department, we walked into there, spotless, and everything ready for the touch technology. So we're making sure we're bringing up the technologies we need for the kids. So yeah, was great to see everything as clean, as neat, and excited to be working with these guys to bring the future into the schools.
Thank you. I'll close this out by saying this. When I started on this board, things were very different. The financial picture was dismal, and there were some things turned to out of desperation that there needed to be a funding source. Let's leave it at that. And it kind of took the focus away from the kids and what we do. And then, there were lawsuits and all that kind of thing. So I've lived through that. We need about 1,400 kids to be self-sufficient. We've been making it through on grants that our staff gets. And we're adding students in a time where most districts are looking at laying off staff to match numbers. So we're on an upswing for 3 years. So we're starting to command our market, and our offerings aren't just math and English and the basic stuff. We're starting to diversify into things that create career paths for people. I joke around a lot. I talk in circles because I have to be politically correct. But this is a time I can tell you, you have to have floor space to put those kids in, and you have to look ahead, and you have to be pragmatic. And I have a board up here that's going to fill these committees and have a pragmatic look and share that with you guys so you can be proud of your schools. You can feel safe that we're up here thinking about where your kids are going. And we're here to support the superintendent and the staff. And I think you just heard the first evaluation of our finance and facilities team. So guys, thank you very, very much. I've waited a really long time for this. So now it is time for submittals.
Thank you. This evening we have a submission from one of our authorized charters to kick off the season of submissions. I'll turn it over to our Director of Charter Services, Ms. Pattison. Thank you.
I put my eyes on. My name is Nishay Pattison. I'm the Director of Charter Services. I'd like to introduce to you Victor Nardiello. He is the Area Superintendent for Assurance Learning Academy.
Thank you, Nishay. Good evening, AAD, USD, Board of Trustees, Board President, Superintendent. My name is Victor Nardiello. I'm the Area Superintendent for Assurance Learning Academy, and I would like to submit our renewal petition for our charter and look forward to hopefully a prosperous future with everyone again.
Thank you. Just so everyone understands the process, they've submitted this. We will not be discussing this. I am going to cycle through the board just to make sure that no one has any conflict of interest when we're reviewing this particular charter. Anything to report? I have something to report. When AEA shut down out of nowhere and my daughter Kendra was going to Vasquez, there was a huge difference in the curriculum. There were no athletics. So she recovered athletics credit through this program right in that thing. But I will tell you, as you all know, I am very sharp on how to look at a charter, and whatever I have for personal experience will not affect my judgment up here. So is there anything else? Thank you. I will move in the consent agenda with the caveat that someone does not want to pull something for discussion in and of itself. Board members, if you have anything you want to pull out the consent agenda. So I've made the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. I will read for the record what is on the consent agenda this evening. It is approval of items 8B through 8F, which are the minutes, the warrant register, purchase orders, National University unpaid student teaching, and practicum agreement, National University Paid Internship Credential Program Agreement. And I believe that's it. Any discussion? Hearing none, call to question.
Mays, aye.
De Sousa.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Matt Scott, aye.
Falsgraf, aye. Moving on, I will move in discussion of the personnel action report.
I'll second.
Thank you.
At this time, we don't have any changes to the PAR.
Any discussion? Okay. Call to question.
Mays, aye.
De Sousa.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Matt Scott.
Falsgraf, aye. I will move in item B, memorandum of understanding between Acton Agua Dulce Teachers Association, ADA, and Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District, AADUSD.
I'll second.
Thank you. Late last spring, our newly hired team of social workers, a new classification to the district, requested to be represented by the ADA Association. If approved, social workers will join certificated unit members, which include, of course, our teachers, school nurses, school counselors, and others. Thank you.
Discussion? Call to question.
Mays, aye.
De Sousa.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Matt Scott, aye.
Falsgraf, aye. We will go to business services. Am I still right on? Good. Okay, this is one of my items. I will move this in for discussion. It's not an action item, but it's the final environmental impact report, environmental impact statement, EIREIS for the Palmdale to Burbank high-speed rail project.
Second.
Thank you. I'll introduce this one. The high-speed rail has been an issue in this town forever. There's been other community groups that have talked about this, but it got down to a point where the school has to be concerned with what the school is concerned with. I expressed a concern that this is a mining area. At work, I've been involved in the train tunnels that go through the city I work in, so I know that they dig stuff up. They bring it to the surface. I don't know that there's gold in it. I'm not sure what's in it, but I don't want it in the lungs of the kids that go to school. So we're not here to showboat, but we have asked a representative of the rail authority to be here tonight, and I've given them specific instructions to narrow the topic to the statement that both Eric and I attended an open session commentary, seems like last October, yeah, or no, 2 years ago. And we made a statement to the rail authority at that time. I'm going to read the statement into the record, and it will frame the discussion that's going to happen. What I'm expecting to come out of this is what I read out of here. There will be mitigation efforts and some type of assurance that we're not just going to be, our kids are going to be running through stuff, and that there's going to be 50 trucks dumping stuff from somebody's pool off of God knows what. You know how the truck situation has been here in this town. So that said, do we have the person online so they can hear what I'm going to read?
We have representatives Ms. Rosenson and Ms. DiCamillo. Mr. Herdosia, do you see any? Okay.
Thank you. Welcome. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. I can't get my camera off. I don't know if you want to see me. Maybe you don't want to see me.
Okay, so rail authority people, we have a civility clause here. There is no crowd in here waiting to tear you up. I don't tolerate that. Anybody that gets out of line, I'll throw them out of the meeting if you're one of these people online. The rest of you will take a recess until we can behave. But I'm going to read this statement, and I think you're ready. I think the statement has been provided to you so you can be responsive to the specific concerns that were raised. And I know you guys have thought a lot. We're not trying to start the wheel, the process over here. So here we go. This is a public comments of the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District made to the California High-Speed Rail Authority on October 18th, 2022. Dear sirs, the governing board of the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District is very concerned about the environmental impact of the construction of the Palmdale to Burbank project. The school district is particularly concerned about the proposed Route 14A, which would negatively impact the health and safety of the students and staff at High Desert Middle School and Vasquez High School. Route 14A would establish a work site just east of Vasquez High School. The dirt and dust created by the excavation of tunnels near this area and the prevailing winds in the area will cause dust and other pollutants to blow onto the campus of the high school and middle school, posing a health and safety risk to students and staff. Also, the vibrations from the underground excavation will disrupt operation of the middle and high school. The Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District urges the California High-Speed Rail Authority to adopt mitigation measures that will minimize the disruptions to the educational operation of the middle school and high school. The school district also urged the California High-Speed Rail Authority to adopt mitigation measures to minimize the impact on traffic during the beginning and end of the school day. Sincerely, Eric Sahakian, Superintendent. So I will kick this off by saying I am a public employee myself. I'm not one of those that pulls up slides that told us what we did in 1947 and our ability to provide input to this was 10 years ago and it has come and gone. So I think you can skip through all of that information and kind of get to the meat and potatoes of it and tell us what the specifications say about control of dust and vibration monitoring, if you will. The floor is yours. Thank you.
So could you make sure that my colleague is unmuted, Elizabeth Rosenson, who's with me? We didn't have that detail when we came tonight. We have a presentation prepared to set the context of what has happened and where we're at with respect to the project.
Let me help you with that. Would it be more convenient? There's no lynch mob in here this evening. Would it be more would it be more convenient to give you a meeting to pop back in on virtually in a meeting or two and kind of narrow it down to that, and we can have a nice little discussion and call it a day? Or that's up to you if you want to carry on.
I think we can address your question. I'd like to put it in context for everyone who's in the room, what's happened and where we are with the process.
Perfect.
I think we have, and I just don't have right in front of me the specific response to your comment, but I do have some measures that I had in my talking points that I think will address particularly the fugitive dust, the vibration, and the traffic issues.
If you find that those could use a little shoring up by the time the meeting is over, then I'll just ask you to submit any additional documentation or specifications of the superintendent, and we'll just do a follow-up in another meeting. So take the floor, please.
Okay, thank you. Well, and thank you for having us, and I appreciate the virtual option for these late evening meetings. Thank you for your service to the school district. It's much appreciated, and I understand the work that goes into that. I don't know if Elizabeth's able to pull up our PowerPoint. I wanted to give you a really quick, and I've only got like 2 slides talking about the overview of our project. That is not what
that's a much older presentation. That's actually from 2018. I had sent in a PDF of our presentation to Yolanda yesterday. If it's not available, I'm happy to share my screen and put up the presentation on my end.
Feel free to do that. Thank you.
Yeah. And I can kick it off. We wanted to, like I said, talk a little bit about the overview. We just finished the Palmdale to Burbank project section, which we're going to do the deeper dive into. But from a statewide overview, just a reminder, we're connecting San Francisco with Los Angeles and Anaheim. It's about 494 miles. And with the environmental clearance of this last section, we've cleared almost all, we've cleared all but one section. So you'll be able to see that on the map when Elizabeth can get this up and running. But we're trying hard to get an operating section in place in the Central Valley. There she goes. So we want to make that trip from Los Angeles to San Francisco in less than 3 hours. Prop 1A mandates that we do that in 2 hours and 40 minutes, which requires us to hit speeds of approximately 220 miles an hour, which is going to be relevant when you see the alignment and the approach to this project section. On the next slide, in the Central Valley, we are under construction on 119 miles between just north of Bakersfield and Madera. So that is under construction. If you've been on the 99, you've probably seen some of that. We're advancing design and starting construction, beginning construction on the full Bakersfield to Merced, 171 miles. And we want to start a test track that we'll be setting up to show everyone that it works. We've just started procurement on our tracking systems and our train equipment. So we're excited about that. But even though our focus is there in the Central Valley on construction, we are doing some work on what we refer to as the bookends. So electrification with Caltrain in Northern California, and then in Southern California, we're working with Metro on Union Station improvements that will benefit all passenger carriers. On the next slide, I'm not going to spend much time on, is our sustainability plan. It's on our website, but I do like to highlight that it's not just about natural resources. It's how we approach the whole project, being responsible to providing jobs, to the economy. We don't want to just be a platform. We actually engage with the communities that we're in to develop stations and ridership. So we have a program that does that as well. On the next slide, you'll see Southern California. I'm regional director for Southern California. We actually have 3 regions, but my region is divided into 4 project sections. So for environmental purposes, we've studied it in 4. Bakersfield to Palmdale was approved in 2021. Palmdale to Burbank, we just approved. We're going to talk about today. Burbank to Los Angeles was approved in 2022, and Los Angeles to Anaheim is left. The next slide, you'll see the map of how all this fits together. I really like this map because it shows the potential for a connection with Brightline West, who is a private sector high-speed rail provider. You'll see in the blue. The High Desert Corridor is working on that connection between Palmdale and Victorville. And our operator could operate on it. I envision agreements between all the rail carriers that we could operate at high speeds on each other's rail, so we could go from Central Valley to Las Vegas. So that's an exciting opportunity, and we're working with Palmdale on advancing the design of that station now. And then you can see phase 2 in the gray. We haven't done much work on, but ultimately we would plan to connect into San Diego. That Los Angeles to Anaheim project section, we're planning to environmentally clear and have our environmental clearance at the end of next year. So still working on that one. Okay, the deep dive is into Palmdale to Burbank, that project section. It was in front of our board in June, and it was adopted. The preferred alternative and the route was adopted by our board in June. It is the SR14A that you've shown, or that you mentioned. It's about 38 miles long with 30 miles of tunneling. So to make that 2 hours and 40 minutes, we need to be fairly flat and not too curvy, so that we can make those high speeds. I always say we don't want to build a roller coaster. So that required tunneling in this area, and it's the reason why it's one of our last project sections, because from an engineering standpoint, we have to keep that flat grade, and it was requiring tunnels, and so we wanted to get that alignment right in this project section. I think it's a game changer. I know I've made that drive, and I'm sure you have too, and it can be very congested. We're designing it for nonstop speeds, that would be 13 minutes. But from station to station, if you calculate in the start and the stop, it'll be about a 17-minute trip. It will be fully grade separated and dedicate the track to high-speed rail from the Palmdale station into the Burbank station with a direct connection to the Burbank airport. So with that stage, the next slide, which I'm not going to spend too much time on, but these are some of the benefits of that project section. The biggest thing is that speed connection and right into the airport. It could be a game changer for housing, for connection between workers and jobs and so forth. On the next slide, a little summary of our tunneling. As you mentioned, there will be some tunneling in this area. Let's just jump to the next one. I think, let's show the profile of the tunneling, which I think gives you a little better perspective. Starting in Palmdale, there are two primary tunnels that are about 13 miles in length. And because of that distance, we needed a construction break approximately in the middle of those. One of those is in Acton, where Elizabeth is showing the hand. And then right after that steep part, we're looking at another intermediate window. So that is why, in Acton, we will need a construction window that kind of helps us put our construction activities so that we're working from both ends as well as from the middle. And that window that we had prepared in Acton, let's go to the next slide, Elizabeth. Yeah, right where her hand is just around the Crown Valley Road area. You can see a little bit more detail from this alignment that we start going into tunnel around Pear Blossom. We're in tunnel throughout the Acton area, and then we come back out at about Vasquez Rock. A little bit of bridge structure. Viaduct, thank you, viaduct structure, a short tunnel, and then we're above ground in Bee Canyon and over the river that's there, and then we go back into tunnel into the San Fernando Valley area. I think the next slide, Elizabeth, shows the intermediate window, or the construction window that I mentioned. That is where that window would end up being. We will be generating soils from that area. We have measures in place to work with a construction contractor when the time comes to develop more details. Some of the examples of things that we would commit to help with construction traffic is to avoid drop-off peak times for drop-off and pick-up at the schools. You can see the proximity to Vasquez High School on the left in this map, and then the High Desert School on the right. So what we would do is come up with a specific traffic plan that we would run by the school district. That is one of our mitigation measures, is that the construction contractor is required to put together a specific plan and bring it to the school district for review and comment. So that is one of the measures I wanted to make sure that we talked about, as well as to address fugitive dust. There will be a plan for addressing fugitive dust that will be the specifics of which we will bring to the school district when that time comes.
The one thing I would add here, LaDonna, is that from the construction window, we would plan to extend Antelope Woods Road directly into the construction window area. So the trucks that would be carrying the dirt out of the tunnels as the tunnel is being bored would travel on that extended stretch and then only be on Crown Valley Road very briefly before getting onto the 14 freeway. So that's one way that we are also trying to minimize our impact on the road and the schools and school pickup and drop off as well.
So let's move I've only got a couple slides left. We do have an interactive map. This is just a screenshot of our interactive map. It's on our meethsrsocal.org page. If you're curious about proximity to our alignment of a specific property, you can type in the address or the APN number and see whether or not that property is impacted and where it is in with respect to the alignment. So it's a good tool. There are some easements. Those little blue squiggly lines that you see are some of the easements that we have identified for needing utilities to get electric and other utilities to the tunnel. But I recommend, if you're curious about property proximity, to take a look at that map. Okay, so next steps and where we are, and I wanted to make sure that we're clear about that. The board has approved, our high-speed rail board has approved this document. We are not funded in this particular area for construction. So we're going to continue to coordinate with agencies, particularly on some wildlife movement projects, but we're waiting to secure funding for the next stages. So you can see on this kind of blowout of the stages that our construction would go through. The next stage would be advanced design. And that's really where the team will focus in on the specifics of the footprint. We've kind of cast a wide net here, and we will recheck our alignment and make sure that we have a solid design there before we start acquiring properties. So a lot of people ask, well, when are you going to start acquiring properties? And it will not be until we've finished that design. So the property acquisition would not start until stage 4. And like I said, we are not funded. And because of the tunneling in this particular section, we need to do a fairly significant amount of geotechnical work. I'm not aware of any mining operations in the area, but this would be part of the geotechnical work that we would need to do, is to really identify the structure, the rock formations, and the hydrology in the areas where we would be tunneling. So that would take quite a bit of time, and most people wouldn't see us for that phase of the work. But that will be the next step, is to start that geotechnical investigation. But we are not funded for that too. So the plan is to look for some grant funding that we could begin that work and start to really better understand the geotechnical. We've done some initial work and we have had some borings, but we really need to do a lot more there so that we can start our design. So I wanted to make it sure that you know we're not going to be starting construction soon, but we'll be working on this in phases. Let's see, you mentioned vibration. That's the one thing I didn't touch on. Our technical people assure me that tunnels have been done in various areas, and there is very little vibration from the tunneling activities. I know Elizabeth works for Metro on some of the boring that's done for the light rail in the LA area, and most people don't feel it at all. So there's really no vibration that comes, at least from the tunneling activities themselves. So it's generally not something that that you need to worry about, I don't think, with respect to the school on the vibration side of things. In fact, most people want to know when the boring machine's coming through, and our technical people say it usually has already gone through, and people don't even notice it. So not much noise and vibration expected from the tunnel activities themselves. It's that truck activity that we mentioned that we will be putting together a plan and coming to you with specifics at that time. Okay, I think I've covered most of it. What did I leave out? Happy to try to address additional questions, or we'll follow up with you if we can't address it today.
Board, we'll cycle through. I want to remind everyone that we are kind of in the corral. We're not talking about private property. We're not talking about whether our well is going to go dry. We're not talking about anything that has anything to do with anything but the concerns, which were we want to be reassured about dust, traffic, and vibration mitigation. Bill.
The one thing I'm seeing under interactive map is you're saying you're going to use Antelope Woods, which is the street that our school is on, the High Desert School, and it also, the tunnel goes right alongside of that school. So it's going to be hard to mitigate your construction trucks when they're tying into the same street as our school's on. That's pretty much what I have.
Yeah, the trucks will be turning onto Crown Valley Road. So the trucks will be south? Is it south?
They're going to be turning onto Crown Valley, but there's a lot of traffic in that area generally, so it's going to be difficult at best in that intersection.
Yeah, and one of the things is to avoid the pickups and drop-off times, and direct our contractor just not to send trucks during those times.
Yes, and I do the same thing for a living, and I know how directing trucks goes. Not very well most of the time. So, all right. Well, thank you for that.
Thank you, George.
You know, I just had the same concerns that Bill had as far as the traffic on that street, because I know when I pick up my daughter from that school, traffic is you can't, there's no street lights, so it's just stop signs. So, especially only it's a two-way stop sign there, so it's very difficult for us to make a left-hand turn. So my concerns are just with that traffic going on during that time frame.
I did have the same concern about traffic, but not necessarily parents. We have a lot of kids that walk away from Meadowlark and walk up and down Crown Valley, walking home down Crown Valley, crossing the street right there at Crown Valley and Antelope Woods. Lots of kids that go to the gas station right there and walk up Crown Valley, where they would be crossing the on-ramp. Depending on which way you're getting on the freeway, our kids cross that on-ramp if you're getting on the freeway from Crown Valley going north. And that if trucks are coming back, getting off the freeway coming from that way, we just have a lot of walking kids there. It's already dangerous, and the kids walking is kind of where I would be concerned with. And like Bill said, I'm sure you have all of the best intentions of keeping our kids and our families safe before and after school, and like Bill said, you can't control what each person is doing. So thank you very much for being here. I do appreciate it.
So if this ever does get funded, what did you think the construction timeline would be for the tunnel? How long would you be in our community moving vehicles and trucks?
I'm not going to venture to try to get something off the top of my head.
100 years or 1 month?
Somewhere in between both of those.
You got to have an estimate, something.
I'm sure there's an estimate.
Yeah, I believe it's several years. It's in the environmental document. They do lay out those.
So I think it would be unacceptable. It would probably be unacceptable to our community to have trucks coming in and out of 1 lane or 2 lane roads in and out of our freeway entry access for that time. So I would encourage you to explore a construction entrance directly onto the 14 if you ever get funded. So if you could take that into consideration, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad the water break at Wilshire and Hamilton worked out the way it did yesterday in Beverly Hills on the Metro project. But remember, the scope of this was that we were going to discuss that mitigation measures that are engineered and those are presented to us in the area of dust, traffic, and vibration in the area of our schools. That let it be known that has been introduced into the record this evening. My fellow board members have had comments. Those will be documented in the minutes. I know that Metro employees and high-speed rail employees won't be the ones digging the tunnel, and there's it's administrated, but I always get nervous when you tell the contractor to design something for us within our rules, but still put money in your pocket at the end of the day. So that said, as I've said, let it be known, you showed up, you were responsive to us. I don't believe anyone in this town endorses the project. I'm not planning on going to San Francisco in 15 minutes at any time in the near future. We could go ahead with snide comments like that, but it is our job to at least make sure that we get comments into the records, the record that tell us what our concerns are. Thank you for being here this evening. If something pops up, put a standing order out there. If there's some text back or something that comes in that would, be useful to us, just pass that along. I'm going to give it one last round. Guys, we good? That's it. Thank you for being here tonight. I hope you give us a trophy for the most civil meeting you've had in the entire process. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There we go. All right, another one of my favorite topics. I will move in adoption of resolution 2024-2025. One more time.
I'll second. Oh, are we seconding?
Guys, and when I stop, and I'm not joking around, it's because this is kind of serious. B, adoption of resolution 2024-2501 to initiate the CVRA process to transition to trustee area voter elections in 2026. I just moved that in. I think Mr.
I'll second.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll start off by saying this. An attorney is going to come on the phone now. I think board member comments about this will be very sparse. As your board president, I have asked anything about what you're here to learn about this evening. And when you're watching on television out there, wherever you're at, or our fine IT team is capturing this for you to watch in the future, I have made sure that every document that has been given to us, formally, informally, including anything that the lawyer has told us back there where we're not supposed to talk about things, is conveniently been strung across the last 3 board meetings on purpose, and every document that has anything to do with what we're about to discuss is collectively in your packet tonight. So in the future, everybody can understand when this hit us, how it hit us, why it hit us, and the board members will not be answering any questions. If you want to make a public comment about this, feel free to fill out a card while the discussion is still going on as you learn what's happening. But every comment and a question that would be asked tonight in this open discussion will be answered directly by the attorney. Ron, are you there?
We're just verifying a phone number if he's joining by phone and not by the traditional link of Zoom. 1 second. Thank you.
When Ron makes reference to the documents, please pull them up, scan through them slowly so the public can see them, every document, in the order that they are referenced. And also pace through them at a point where someone going through YouTube in the future could kind of slow down and take a look at what's being shown. Is Ron with us yet? Let's take a 5-minute recess. Move to take a 5-minute recess.
I'll second.
Call to question.
Mazai.
Jesus, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Matt Scott,
Fallsgraf, I will see you about 8:35. The Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District Board of Trustees at 8:37 p.m. Ron, welcome. I have made a few opening comments. I have let the public know that every document, including the directives you gave the board in your memo and everything, they're all in possession of that, have access to it, that we have tried to put all of this in one meeting where all documents will be displayed on the screen as you reference them, and that you will be the one to answer any and all questions or comments that come forward if there's any from the public. So feel free, welcome, take over, please.
Mr. Wankar, can you unmute yourself, please?
Mute.
Perfect.
One last thing, for the benefit of the public, act as if none of us know anything about this, because I'd prefer not to, but go ahead. Just start from the very beginning, how, when, what, and why.
Oh, sure. Well, it started with a demand letter from an attorney named Kevin Shankman, sent in May of 2024, alleging that the school district was in violation of the California Voting Rights Act, which creates a preference for trustee area voting. That's the letter that you're showing on the screen. And he's demanding that the board transition to trustee area elections. And this has happened throughout the state. These letters have come from this attorney and other attorneys. And most cities, counties, school districts, special districts have voluntarily transitioned to trustee area elections or district elections to avoid the cost of litigation. The cost of litigation can be anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million. The city of Palmdale litigated the issue, and their attorney's fees have been astronomical. And city of Santa Monica, several cities have tried to contest the allegations, and with very little success. So most of the school districts have voluntarily transitioned because basically the odds are stacked against the school district. So with that, we did a presentation back in June 27th. There was went through the whole process, explained how the CVRA works, how they determine whether there's polarized racial voting. The idea behind it is to give minority groups an opportunity to elect the candidate of their choice. And it varies from district to district depending on the demographics of the district. And so I'm not familiar with the demographics of the Acton Agua Dulce Unified School District. What we typically do is start the process. We have the demographer come in and do a study, determine what the demographic makeup of is the district, the population, and we go through a process. I think the next document kind of is if I remember correctly, the frequently asked questions that we provided you to talk about the CVRA. So I won't go through that whole document, but the procedure basically is 4 public hearings, 2 public hearings for the public and the board to provide input to the demographer and with respect to the criteria that are used for the maps. And so the basic criteria is laid out in the law itself and requires that the districts be compact, contiguous, that they be equal in population. So you divide the school district by 5, and so it can't reach the largest and the smallest
area, my population can't vary more than 10%. And then we look at communities of interest. We look at whether there's minority groups that are in a particular area that should be kept together. In some districts there are, some districts minority groups are spread throughout the school district. So it just depends on the makeup of the district. And then after the 2 pre-map hearings, we have 2 hearings on the maps. The demographer post maps, and then we have 2 hearings for the public to look at the maps and discuss the maps. And after 2 hearings, the board, we also have some community forums where we discuss it with the community as well to try to get a larger community input. And then the board makes a decision on which map to adopt. Then the map goes to the county committee on school district reorganization, the LA County Committee, and they hold a public hearing in the school district and decide whether to approve that map or not. They make the final administrative decision. So that's kind of the background. But if we go to the
Ron,
yes.
Ron, can we pause for just a second?
Sure.
Can you pull up the document, the legal document that was written by Ron's firm instructing the school board as to I think it's that one, yes.
Third one down.
Yes. You'll be able to tell because it says on it that it's attorney-client privilege. If you ever want to see a closed session document from an attorney, you're looking at one. But we can scan through this. And so when we get into this kind of stuff, because we all do different things besides figure out how to redo an election, Ron issued this, and I wanted this to be available to the public, so it will be on the district's website. It was in the board package, and it's a directive to kind of say where the district would get into harm's way, especially financially. So scan through that, please, and we'll get the whole 9 pages of it into the video that shows it was in the record. Anybody out there that is wondering about this? And while this is going on, Ron, if you've had commentary with anyone outside of the board or concerns or anyone in contact with you, feel free to share that information at the appropriate time. We're almost done here.
Yeah, so this is basically the document that I was summarizing in the last few minutes. I didn't want to go through it verbatim, but I think I've kind of given you a good overview, and I encourage members of the community to read it. I realize it's 9 pages, but it'll give you all the details of how this process works. And as I said, we have 2 hearings. The tentative schedule that we've talked about is October, let me get my notes here. October 10th and 24th, we were going to have the pre-map hearings to get public input on the criteria. Such things as you should keep this area together, you should keep that area together. You know, you should draw the boundary here, you should draw the boundary there. Those types of issues for the demographer to hear, so that the demographer can take that into account when they draw the maps. And then we've scheduled the hearings on the maps for November 14th and December 19th. So prior to these hearings, we will put information on the district website. And as the board president just indicated, we're already putting stuff into the record. We're putting stuff on the website. And so we'll have lots of information. And then we'll be attending these board meetings and answer any questions that people have with respect to it. So the resolution that we have on the schedule tonight is just a formal resolution to initiate the process. And it just kind of recites what is in the California Voting Rights Act, some of the things that I've talked about. It indicates that the board is interested in avoiding litigation and the cost of litigation, and that the superintendent is authorizing the superintendent to move forward with the legal counsel to hire a demographer to get the process going. So that's really what the resolution is about. And then also on the board agenda is the proposal from the demographer himself. Okay, so now I think we've got the resolution on the screen. So this, the first several paragraphs are the background, what we call the whereas clauses, that kind of set forth the rationale for the resolution. And that's basically what I've been telling you, is that there's been this threat of litigation against the district over the California Voting Rights Act. California Voting Rights Act favors trustee area election, and that the board has decided to voluntarily move to trustee area elections to avoid the cost of litigation, which is can be anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million, and it can get quite expensive. So the board is going to aim is to save costs and preserve that money for the classroom by voluntarily moving to trustee area election. And then, as I said, this authorizes the superintendent and legal counsel to hire a National Demographics Corporation to do the demographic work. And at those meetings in October and November, you'll get to know the demographer. They'll have PowerPoint presentation, and they'll discuss the demographics of the district. And then also, what we've pushed, one of the documents is the proposal itself from the demographer that lays out the costs. And those costs, the basic fee is $12,500. Each in-person meeting is $3,000. So if there's 4 in-person meetings, it would be $12,000. Website administration would be $6,500. They would assist with posting all the materials on the website, allowing interactive maps so that the public can interact. They can look at the maps, make suggestions, make comments. Then the 2 community forums would be $6,000. So that totals $37,000. And so we proposed approving a contract not to exceed $40,000, just to give us a little bit of leeway. If we do some of these meetings virtually over Zoom, that would reduce the cost by $1,500 per meeting. So we could potentially save some costs there. So that's kind of walking through the documents and kind of going over everything that we were going to talk about today. So with that, I will just open it up to questions.
Ron, let's do this. Could you talk to us a little bit about some of the potential pitfalls of board members becoming over involved in this process?
Well, one of the criteria is that the maps are not supposed to favor or discriminate against incumbents or board candidates. So I would caution board members not to, try to push for a map that's more favorable to them in particular, but to focus in on communities of interest, main physical barriers within the district, main streets, main highways, main landmarks. Those are typically where we draw the boundaries. Depending on where the population lies and where the population concentrations are, then we'll be able to determine how to divide the school district into 5 parts. So I would caution people to think about, what are the main streets? What are the main dividing points? Where would it make sense to draw the boundaries in the trustee area?
Ron, if you recall, the last time you were here talking about this, there was a public comment that kind of had a question that seemed valid. Do you recall what that was, or do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the question was. I did talk to a community member over the phone about some of her questions. and I'm trying to recall what that was.
Not to put words in your mouth, but I recall it being something along the lines of, we're having a hard enough time. We just had 3 seats open. They've declared a no election already. So it was kind of about what happens if you have no candidates because some of us all live by each other, something like that.
Oh, yes. Thank you for jogging my memory. Okay. Yes. The question came up as to what happens if you divide into 5 trustee areas and then nobody in a particular trustee area files to run for office. What happens then is the board is required to appoint somebody. And actually, in the past week, I've had 2 districts, one in Ventura County and one in Orange County, where that happened. And so then you have to go through an appointment process, and you have to appoint somebody before November 5th, before the November election. And then that person takes office in December at the organizational meeting. So, that happens sometimes. The other question that came up is, what if we have 3 vacancies on the board? What if, we have 3 trustee areas up for election and nobody files in any of those 3 trustee areas? Now that I have not seen happen before. I suppose it could happen. And what happens then is the County Board of Education steps in and basically becomes the school board and runs the district until elections can take place and a new board can be elected. And so that's something you would truly want to avoid, because the county board members are from, all over the county. They may not know anything about your community. And so that could, be difficult, a difficult situation for the community if that happens. But like I said, that's pretty rare. That doesn't happen very often. It does occasionally happen where one seat is nobody runs for election, and then there's an appointment. That does happen fairly often, I should say. At least once or twice a year we get that question.
So expanding upon that a little bit, is it not true that with regard to if you don't have enough candidates and you have to make an appointment, is not the flavor that's represented in the letter we got from the attorney that kicked us off? Do you not have to try to maintain that criteria of basically trying to capture what's being depicted as the marginalized in the political process? Isn't that the underlying theme throughout?
Yeah, I mean, the idea behind it is to give minority groups an opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. But if you get a situation where you have to appoint, then you have to appoint somebody from that trustee area. And that sometimes you may have a trustee area that's not that interested or not that involved with the community, and it's difficult to find to run or to be appointed. That's a potential problem.
Okay, thank you. I think it's time, if someone from the public has a comment, now's the time to fill out a card. While that's happening or not happening, I'm going to turn this over to the board for comments and questions, and I will jump out ahead and say I have absolutely nothing to say about this in terms of a comment or a question. Thank you.
I don't have a comment or a question.
So Ron, you'll have to help me with this a little bit, but I think that a very simple kind of, just kind of putting this in very layman's terms about what exactly is happening to us might make sense for anyone that's listening. But currently we're in a at-large trustee area. I didn't know what that meant until we started having these meetings, that simply meant that if there's 3 seats open and 5 people run, the 3 top vote getters actually just get those 3 seats. That's simply all that means. And I didn't know that. Would you know that was a thing?
Yeah,
but that's how it was working for a while with us now. And basically through a letter from an attorney, we've been encouraged to move to basically where we divide this Acton-Aguilera Unified School District boundaries into 5 areas. Do it as fairly as possible. Pay attention to any minority communities that have been marginalized through our at-large process, and then just create 5 areas. And then somebody from each of those 5 districts must now run to gain one of those seats. Would that be a good summary, Ron?
Impact on the voter, the impact, and you've described it well. What might be wondering about when they're looking at their ballot is they won't be voting every 2 years for 3 people or 2 people. What they'll be doing is voting every 4 years for 1 person in their trustee area. So that's going to be the major impact on the individual voter. And so that might be perplexing or confusing to people, but that's going to be the impact of moving to trustee areas. Rather than voting for 3 people, 1 election, and then in the next election voting for 2, and the top vote getters getting elected, they'll be voting every 4 years for 1 person, and the person who gets the most votes in that trustee area will be elected to the board.
Thank you, Ron. That's all I have.
That's it? Everybody good? I want it noted in the record that no board member had any questions or comments that would favor their individual interest in holding a seat on the school board, and that the only question coming from the board was to simplify the process into simply understood language of how it works. Is there anything else? Could you pull up the resolution one more time, please? Is it the superintendent and legal counsel's advisement that we should adopt this resolution?
Yes, that's.
Would it be best to characterize the funding that it takes to conduct this process comes out of general education funds that are intended to support our district students and the staff that serves them?
Yes, it does.
Yes, unfortunately.
Thank you. So that said, we can all read the resolution. Barring no other comments, call to question.
Meza.
D'Souza.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mascot.
Ballsgraf, aye. The resolution passes. I will move in, if we will pull up the cost summary for, I think it's document 4. Thank you. We'll move on now to item C, which is, and I will move it in, a proposal from National Demographic Corporation not to exceed $40,000.
I'll second.
Thank you. I believe that we've discussed this. Is there need for discussion, Ron?
I don't believe so. I think we went through each of the criteria, the charges, and unless there's questions, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board members, do you have questions or comments? Mr. Mays,
Yes, sir.
do you have comments?
I do not.
Mr.
No.
And I have none. Note there were no board member comments on this item, so we'll call it to question now.
Meza.
D'Souza.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Mascot.
Ballsgraf, aye. Ron, thank you for your assistance in this matter and for doing everything you can, including the cost of the demographer to limit the impact on the students and staff of this district. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll be in touch, and we'll keep you updated on the process as we go through it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. I will move in item D, 2022-23 audit report.
1 second.
Thank you. It's customary for school districts' LEAs to conduct internal fiscal audit reports, as we have one here spanning the 22-23 fiscal year. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Nguyen.
Good evening, board. This is an audit report in like what Dr. Sawkins mentioned, for the 22-23 school year. It tells us what our year end looks like, as well as what type of liabilities we have in regards to our certificate of participation, our general obligation bond that we built for Vasquez High School, the land value of our district, as well as our building improvement. Our year end balance for the 22-23 school year ends at $13.67 million fund balance. And there were really no penalties for the district whatsoever as well, but there were 3 audit findings, which is that we need to be more responsive to the auditors to get our audit report in a timely fashion. And then there was the ASB findings as well. And then the third one was the school safety plan, and that was it.
And just to clarify, Mr. Nguyen, the school safety plan, LEAs are required to go ahead and have school boards approve that by the end of February, actually March 1st. I believe that year ours was approved March 8th, so we missed it by 7 days.
Correct.
Although it was approved.
Yes. It was.
Thank you.
Board members, do you have comments?
No comment.
Okay. So you said there were audit findings. Were there any material revisions?
Can you repeat that?
Were there any material revisions based on audit findings?
No, there were no revisions other than a recommendation or corrective action plan, and we put some corrective action plan in place.
So one of the audit findings had recommendations to change our processes or the way we were handling a certain item?
Yeah. I mean, basically submitting our audit report or information to the auditors in time, so that way they can generate their reports to us.
Okay, that was the only change we're making to any of our processes.
And then also the ASB, which is getting the information to the auditors in time so that they can audit the ASB, the bank reconciliation. So that was it.
A couple more questions. So you said our ending fund balance was?
13, I have it here. $13.67 million.
And what is the split between restricted and unrestricted on that?
So unrestricted was $10.67 million, and the restricted funds was basically $3 million. So it ends up to be $13.67 million.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to prompt you along. Tell me about your questions about those breakdowns and what they would mean to our constituents that are watching.
So,
Lester,
Oh, you want me to ask that one?
please. And then,
Well, let's repeat it again so we can make sure everybody understands it. So the reserve was 13 million. We can use round numbers.
correct.
And then what was the breakdown between restricted and unrestricted?
So our unrestricted fund balance was 10.67 million, and the restricted funds was 3 million.
So for restricted funds, what does that mean precisely?
Restricted funds are categorical funds such as Title I, Title II, grants that are
More layman's terms. What's Title I, Title II?
Title I is geared towards the undocumented people percentage, or foster youth, or English language learners, low income, and free reduced lunch students.
Okay.
And then, and it's very restrictive. You can only use those funds to target our undocumented people percentage.
So for that $10 million that's sitting there, we couldn't just go decide to build something, or we couldn't decide to just increase salaries out of the blue for some reason.
Correct, the $3 million no, but the unrestricted, that's where we can use the funds.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
okay, there was a lot just said right there without a ton being said. Nothing bothers me more than people coming forward with unfunded mandates. So for example, No Child Left Behind. You get a certain amount of funding. They tell you that your math and reading scores need to gain X amount of money or X amount of gain every year. As the further you go into the program, the steeper it gets. This is all Title I stuff. And at some point you go into program improvement. The idea would be that you would build program capacity that would benefit the same types of students year after year. Seldom does that happen. It goes into other areas, and then suddenly you're penalized, and you've got an oversight agency coming in and running your school district for you that kind of takes away what's important to our local stuff. I'm going to say the next thing as gently as I can. I have been on this board long enough to see serious ASB findings. I have been on this board where I was forced to take, let's just say, in excess of $75,000 out of the general fund and recompense for ASB findings. ASB is for students. And the last thing I am going to think is that students are losing hot dog receipts at the football game to the tune of $75,000. That's not what happened this time. And I need you to understand that this report is not for this year.
That's correct.
It is actually for how many years ago?
For the 22-23 fiscal year.
Yes, so the remedy for the ASB problem is training in proper. So does that mean we're going to take the kids that are selling hot dogs and run them through some accounting school with you?
So we are going to have professional development training, sending the ASB staff to a training, whether it's through FICMAT or through the county.
I'm sorry to be rude, but when you give me these kinds of findings, I'm going to question why they're happening, because in the past, it has been something that's been very embarrassing for me to vote upon. We've come so far. I do not want the ASB students represented as anything but the finest. We need to make that finding go away permanently and immediately. Thank you. That was pretty loud. Anything else from anyone? Sir, I will summarize this. You've been here a very short period of time. I'm going to congratulate both of you sitting there tonight for always being available to have open and serious conversations with us, whether you're prepared or not. You both command your profession to the point where this becomes very productive and transparent. The fact that both of you can open your doors on very short notice to a subcommittee who's coming in there, and these gentlemen are both people who know money and construction and financing thereof, and get the kind of comments that you all got tonight is incredible, and that makes me very proud to sit in this seat till December. Thank you all. Of course you may.
In looking at the findings in the last couple pages, what stands out to me is where it says repeat finding, no. And that's a very important when I'm looking at it, because it means that we are not repeating mistakes that we've made in the past, that any mistake that we made in the past has been fixed. I'm going to have faith in our systems that were put in place after this, and I don't think that we'll have this finding on the next audit report. Hopefully there aren't any, but to have no findings that would be like lollipops and rainbows. I do think that we have had in the past where we repeat findings over and over, and I'm really glad that we did not have repeat findings this year. So out of everything, when we're talking about what it breaks down to, money and findings, I felt like that was a positive in reading this.
Okay, I'll close that out by confirming what the board member said. The period I'm talking about was finding after finding after finding, and then finally an order to recompense out of the general fund. So in raising children, I watch for errant behavior and address it immediately. To the board member's point, this finding and audit is for stuff that happened 2 years ago. So next year's will be what happened last year. So I think the expectation is today is sometime in August 2024. So I would hope by the time that audit comes out, I'll be long gone, number one. And number two, it will be positive. Thank you. One more time. So moving on, we have a number of business items that appear to be contracts. Oh, yeah. Call the question.
Mays,
Jesus, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Falsgraf, aye. Thank you, Vice President. Moving on, I will move in item E, proposal Lynette Rock, RD Consulting for food services not to exceed $9,500.
second.
Thank you. We're seeking to lend support to our food services department as well as our newly hired food services coordinator with consulting support to cover areas such as nutrition audits, reporting of unduplicated pupil percentages, and others. Mr. Nguyen, anything you want to add?
This is Miss Lynette Rock will be a mentor to the new food services coordinator, and just to make sure that we're in compliance with the rules and regulations with the USDA as well as the California Department of Education's Nutrition Services Department.
And I'd like to just add, just for the record, if approved, the budget source is Fund 13, which is the fruits and vegetables program. Thank you.
Correct.
Board member comments? We have a wonderful new food services coordinator, pillar of the community. Called to question?
Mays,
Jesus, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Falsgraf, aye. Next, I will move in item F, a proposal from gaggle.net.
Need a second?
Yeah,
Oh, second.
I turned that around, didn't I?
I did.
Thank you. It's hard to believe this was on the agenda at a board meeting 3 years ago. So Gaggle is a platform that actively alerts our school officials when there is a student who is mentioning anything about self-harm or harm to others. It alerts school officials to quickly react, respond to the student, and make sure that, whether it's a false positive or it's a positive, to provide supports to students. So we're seeking a renewal of the Gaggle platform for the amount of approximately $6,500. If approved, this will be coming out of a categorically funded grant, learning recovery block grant. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Hearing none, call the question. Oh, go ahead.
Without violating anyone's privacy, of course, and you'd have to speak to someone to allow this, but is there any way that we could ever know if we ever did any good with this program or if something good came from it that we could share?
Oh, absolutely.
You have to do it now, obviously, but
we could, there'll be a counselor presentation coming up soon.
okay.
I could ask them to go ahead and incorporate some of the numbers and just anecdotally their response to Gaggle and
That would be
how it
amazing.
supported the schools.
There was information.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. Call the question?
Mays,
Jesus, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Falsgraf, aye. I will move in item G, consideration of adopting resolution 2024-25.02, temporary interfund cash borrowing for fiscal year 2024-25.
I'll second.
I'll turn it over to Mr. Nguyen. This is his wheelhouse.
Thank you, Dr. Salkin. As I'm closing the unaudited actuals, this gives us the flexibility of transfer funds to other funds if there were deficit spending, such as if food services, Fund 13, was deficit spending, then we would have to transfer or loan the funds to Fund 13, so that way they can meet their financial obligation, so that we can zero it out, so they won't have a deficit spending in Fund 13, as an example.
That it? Board member questions or comments? I have one.
Sure.
Do you anticipate borrowing anything from LACO for the charter pass-through throughout the year?
No.
Thank you very much. Call the question.
Mays,
Jesus, aye.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Falsgraf, aye. Moving on to item 11. I will move, this is board policies, administrative regulations. I will move Board Policy BP 1240, and Administrative Regulation AR 1240, Volunteer Assistance.
Second.
As an action item, this is a second read. Once again, this policy outlines duties, qualifications, criminal background checks for volunteers for a school district. Language was taken from California School Board Association, and districts throughout Southern California have adopted this policy, as well as LACO, LA County Office of Education.
We're actually putting a document up on the board. Is there two? Board member comments or questions?
My one comment is at the very top of the new language, where it says volunteers shall not be used to assist certificated staff performing teaching or administrative responsibilities in place of a regularly authorized, sorry, I need glasses. Regularly authorized classified employee. Basically, we can't have volunteers taking the place of laid off classified employees anymore. And I know I've said it over and over, let's not have volunteers checking out books and checking in books. That's now in board policy, that volunteers cannot take the place of our laid off librarians. That I just wanted to point that out, that it's now board policy. And I didn't put it in board policy. It comes written.
Am I supposed to smile too? Next. Next. Administrative regulations are improved because of need typically. Anything else? Okay, it was an open hearing. We had a robust discussion. Called the question.
Mesa.
Brianna Texoni, aye.
Falsgraf, aye. My favorite section. Board comments.
Well, I'm glad we're all back to school. The kids are all back to school. And looking very much forward to tomorrow night's first football game. I agree with Mr. Rivas as far as the team looks good. Both football and cheerleaders are larger numbers, 40 plus on on football, 17 on cheerleading. I think we're looking good. We're ready to go.
Without coughing. Sorry, I was sick about a month ago, and this cough is still haunting me today. Thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate your efforts and your dedication to the district. I had a good time at the employee breakfast. It was great to see everybody's face all in one place. I know there were some that weren't there, but it was great to see faces and names. So I appreciate the invitation. Again, echoing Mr. Rivas' comments about the High Desert football team and his appreciation for the Vasquez football team and his appreciation for the new coaches and the excitement for the students. I share that same sentiment with the High Desert volleyball team. My daughter's on that volleyball team with one of the varsity teams, and their excitement is just it's phenomenal to see them. All the students excited about the game, excited about learning the new skill set, and the coaches, their dedication is just phenomenal. So I thank you for that. I had an opportunity during the first day of school to see Meadowlark's STEM room, and I was amazed about how many different pieces of equipment technology is in that room with the 3D printers and the laser printers. And I'm telling you, my daughter would be so happy to go in there and just create a lot of stuff. So I'm a little disappointed that there's nobody in there right now teaching that course. So I'm hoping that we can get somebody in there as soon as possible. I know Dr. Sahakian and Dr. Chamberlain are looking into that. But it's a skill set. It's a valuable skill set they can learn, and it's just we need some return on that investment there. It's great stuff, so we should be utilizing that. With that, again, thank everybody for joining us tonight. Appreciate it.
I'm pretty much just going to reiterate what my fellow board members said. I'm super excited for the beginning of the school year. I know first week I've heard how great the opening of schools was. I do want to point out Meadowlark's back to school night, the night before school actually starts, is such a fantastic idea. So whoever's idea that was, the people that are keeping it going, putting it on, I heard fantastic things from parents. I saw adorable pictures. And I think that event where scared little kids can go the night before and really get ready and not go to bed with so much nerves in their system is just fantastic. So kudos to Meadowlark for putting that on. I'm definitely looking forward to some volleyball at High Desert and at Vasquez. Looking forward to some football, looking forward to just sports in general to get kids kicked off. I know I've said it before a whole bunch of times. In my personal experience, I have kids that probably wouldn't have graduated high school or wouldn't have been as successful in high school if it weren't for sports. So I do know that sports is such a huge, huge aspect of academics as a whole. And I'm just super excited. I always love our sports teams and going and supporting. So I know everybody's probably super exhausted. TGIF tomorrow. I hope you guys all get some rest this weekend and start the next week just ready to go. So thanks for everything you do, staff, students, parents.
Yeah, what a great kickoff to the new year. That was well done to all the staff, teachers, and everyone involved in making that happen. And welcome back to school sports. That's going to be fun. I'm honestly super excited about football tomorrow. I think there's a whole bunch of kids on that team that have been there for multiple years that do not know what it's like to win a game. My kid's one of them. He's been there for multiple years and has no idea what that feels like. So it'll be good to see them making progress. I don't think we're trying to set them up and say they have to win tomorrow, but man, if they could move the ball and keep possession, get some first downs, I think that would be a great start. But yeah, show up tomorrow, Friday night.
Okay, staff, thank you for getting the kids in the classroom focused and ready to learn. Superintendent Sahakian, thank you for being focused on the students of this district. And I am so thankful for a competent school board. The last thing I have to say, I've said a lot tonight, but I do need to point out that when it comes to those pictures, objects are narrower than they appear. I'm still can't. What else we got here? The calendar. We have a board meeting on September 12th, and we have a board meeting on September 26th. We want to pay attention that some of those meetings are likely to include this voter zoning, whatever it was that Ron talked to us about. Is there going to be an issue with us having a quorum on either September 12th or September 26th? No. We'll move on to future agenda items. I'm showing counseling services presentation. I think we just had an addition onto that. And the strategic plan quarterly update. Is there anything else? Hearing nothing, thank you. I'm so glad when staff can fill the agenda without being prompted along. I'm going to move that we adjourn this meeting at 9:26 p.m.
Second.
Call the question.
Meza. Yes, Susai.
Brianna Taxoni, aye.
That's go.
Ballsgraph, aye. Thank you, everyone.